Hey guys, I just want to let you know I'm putting up a seed giveaway today. This is for anybody can participate, but the idea being my new gardeners, the new gardeners out there, people who aren't sure if they've got the ability to grow anything. I think that we all are trying to learn something new, but it's seeds that are easy for anyone, especially the new gardener, to plant and grow. So if you guys will just follow along, that's what it's about. And then just follow directions and hopefully you win. I just want to say hello. It's a little bit chilly out here on the porch today, but we actually have a really sunshiny, nice day. So I wanted to, today we are getting, tomorrow is the last day of January. So I wanted to get down to our seed giveaway, and I want you to keep in mind these seeds are for beginners. I know I have a lot of friends that do garden and they can grow anything, but these are things that I found to be helpful initially in learning how to garden, things that I found that I could grow and I felt success in growing, and I felt like they were things that we actually did eat. So I just wanted to give you guys, this is our top 10. Summer squash always, and I did the early summer crookneck just because like I really ran into an issue. The squash beetles weren't an issue out here. It was the cucumber beetles that were just attacking and killing my squash, diseasing my squash. So I like this one. It grows quickly and it will produce quickly and it produces a lot, and then the bugs take over. And if you're trying a more organic approach, this is the one I would go with. The next one is the zucchini. I don't get quite as much zucchini, but this one is also, it is pretty prolific and tasty. Mammoth sunflowers. Sunflowers are my absolute favorite flowers. And I love these. They're huge, but they also bring a lot of really sweet pollinators. They pull a lot of just nastiness out of the ground. Very, very good just in general for your garden. Cilantro, you're going to want to get that planted pretty early, but it does grow really well here in the cooler weather. I have some started right now as seeds, but it's something you can direct sow. And what's really funny, we planted some in the spring. It was too hot by the time I planted it. It totally bolted and turned to seed. And then in the fall, it self-planted. Like I planted no cilantro in the fall, but we had cilantro all through the fall that I was able to use in my soups and any of my my special cilantro cooking. Basil, and this is the Genovese basil, is very tasty, just smells delicious, perfect for all of your Italian needs. We use this for marinara, we use it in our pizza. I cook it, caprese sandwiches, just love, love, love. Easy to grow. I plant this one in like the emerald towers, and the emerald towers is just huge and bushy, and both of them I'm able to harvest and make pesto with. And it doesn't take a lot of seeds to grow a really big basil plant here. So this is a fun one. This is the So Easy cherry tomato. The So Easies, and you may find you like these. That's why I wanted to include at least one of them in here. These seeds are teeny tiny, and so they've put a special coating that actually doesn't cause any problems for the plant to grow, but then you kind of know exactly how many you've planted. And I will, later on, I'm going to do a thing with tomatoes and kind of direct you to my favorite person on tomatoes. But I would say with this is nice. You can see, you can actually touch and feel the little seeds. But these are a fun little darker tomato, but still sweet. This is a very sweet little cherry. And it just brings a pop of color into the garden. And it's not red, it's a little more maroonish, even kind of indigo. Radishes, these are the Crimson Giant. These are your just basic, simple radishes. Right now in the cooler weather, in the next month or so, just direct sow a bunch of these. We have fallen in love, or I have, with radishes. They've replaced my potatoes for me, just because it's a healthier, lower carb snack for me, but it's still, I think they taste delicious. They can be chopped. You can even eat the greens on the radish, but this is an easy grower. My son has enjoyed these because he direct sows them, and he's the one that I call out to harvest them because little people like pulling good food, or food in general. He has found that they're too spicy for him if he eats them directly. And I don't know that he loves them roasted, but my bigger kids will eat them roasted. One of my new favorites are these zinnias. We started planting those more for fun. My son brought home a little bag of seeds with a little bit of soil in them, and he planted them last spring, and they lasted all through the summer, all through the fall. I think about a week ago, I just pulled the last bit of dying zinnias out of the garden. We cut them, we put them in our kitchen, we put them outside. They're beautiful, lots of colors in this little packet. And the cool thing about these is the seeds are so easy to save that then you can have them again and again, and each year you're gonna have more and more than this one little packet. So this is topping with my favorite. It's in the running now with sunflowers, but I just don't think you can ever take the sunflowers away from me. Nastartiums. Nastartiums are supposed to be helpful at keeping the cucumber beetles away. I did not find that to be true this last year, but I think they were just in abundance. But they're also a really fun little plant, and you can grow this on your patio. You can grow this, it's kind of vining, so you could grow it in a little pot that's hanging, and just beautiful flowers. And again, this one has an assortment of colors. And then just for fun, an assortment of sunflowers, again, attracting those pollinators, again, beautiful for your kitchen table. So I picked these because, one, they're beautiful, but also because I know that they'll grow for you. And I feel like when you're becoming a first time or a newbie, or you failed in the past, it's good to have things that are going to help you see success and realize if you've got the good soil, which is something I want to talk to you about. Starting your seeds, I would definitely make sure that you're starting off with, give them a good start, good soil, make sure that there's nutrients in your soil. So that's why I do start with a general potting soil mix, and then a little bit of seed starting medium on top. I add vermiculite. I don't know if you can see the white in here, but I do add that vermiculite to keep some space and make it a little more aerated so that the soil's not compact, so the seeds and the roots have room to grow. And then watering, and that's not keeping them saturated, watering to keep them moist, or that soil moist while they're growing. And then good lighting. So originally we had been keeping our plants last year, our seedlings we put in the garage. It has one window with good light, not enough light. And so my plants ended up very, very leggy and just kind of pitiful. And by the time I brought them out to harden them off, they all died. I think I had 2 or 3 plants, like seedlings, that turned into actual plants, and they were very slow growing and they just struggled. But I used a very compact soil. I just used the potting soil that I use. It's not potting soil, it's raised bed soil, and it's thicker and it's a little bit harder when it dries. And they're just, I felt like it was too compact. When I went in to pull those seedlings out, I realized they just were struggling to grow from the beginning. So this year we're trying something different. We have a grow light set up, which I will show you guys here following this little giveaway. And I just encourage you, try something. I know I have friends that are like, I have a shady house. There are plants that will grow in the shade. So don't be afraid to try something. Don't be afraid to fail, because what you're gonna do when you fail is you're gonna learn, next year I'm gonna do this differently. And that's what we learned with our seedlings. I was somewhat sad and devastated because I felt like I spent so much time trying to get those seeds to germinate, trying to get those plants to grow, and I didn't start off right. And so I would definitely encourage you to start off right. All of these are fresh seeds. They all are for this year. You can use seeds from last year. Just know you might want to put a few more seeds in each hole, just because their germination rate may not be up to the level of the fresher seeds. So those are a few key points I just wanted to throw out there. But yeah, this is in my giveaway. You've got a week. I'm going to give you guys 7 days, and then we'll pick a winner. So I just ask that you would subscribe and share, so that we can get these sent out, and I will pick a winner in a week, and we will get these guys to you that week. Have a great day, and just stick around. We've got a few more things to show you. So one of the things I did want to share with you guys has to do with growing where you live. And I have found this, since all my seedlings passed away last year, I started going, why? And part of it is because I live in Texas. This book, I do not know this person, Greg Grant, but I do know that this book has been extremely helpful with me as I've been starting to look at what do I want to do here on our property as far as growing? And so one of the things that it talks about, and I again, if you're a brand new gardener, start with one book. If you're going to start with one book in Texas, I would start with this one. It talks about soil pH, which really affects certain plants, especially some of your trees. It affects certain plants more than others. And he talks about that. He kind of gives you a range, talks about just how easy it is to test your soil. You also have your Ag Life Extension office. I would recommend that you touch base with them. There is a way to get your soil tested. Those are just simple things, because the first thing you're doing, that is how you are going to grow anything, is having good soil that has good nutrients to put into these seeds, because these seeds are going to be using a lot of energy and a lot of those nutrients to grow food for you. So that's what I would start with. This book, he's got vegetables, fruit, trees, garlic, potatoes. But what I love about it, if you can see, he talks about it being what seasons it does best in. Texas is a big state, so it talks about northern Texas versus the central and south Texas, because they're different growing zones. He talks about where you want to plant, how much sunlight that plant really needs, and sometimes too much sunlight's a problem. So he talks about that, how to plant it, how deep, how far apart, the way that you should care for it. And here is a secret. Up until about 18 months ago, I truly thought that fertilizing plants was not organic. So I always said I wanted to grow organically. Well, guess what? You need to put more nutrients in your soil. There is an organic way to do that. It is called fertilizer, but it is not a chemical fertilizer. You're not putting bad chemicals into the ground. There are natural fertilizers, oyster shells, lobster, fish, kelp. And so just doing a little more research, but he talks about that. And he talks about the different types of fertilizers that you would want to put in for different plants based on, do they do better with a more acidic soil or more alkaline soil? So I found that this was extremely helpful for me. We'll see how my garden goes this year, but I feel like it was a jumping point to go, what am I growing? When am I growing it? And how am I growing it? So the other thing I did, I have made a calendar. And for me, it gives me a time. So I figured out when our last frost is supposed to be, which is right here, March 10th-ish in Texas, in South Texas, Zone 8B, where we're at. And so it's, what are the things that I can direct sow? Well, I put those in here when I want to direct sow those. But I also have transplants, because I started back in January, 6 to 8 weeks before. This is my 7th week, because I was a little late. 7 weeks before inside sowing. These are the seeds I for sure knew I wanted to sow indoors, just because they needed a little more time, and I wanted to make sure I got a good harvest out of it. So same thing going on to August. I'm gonna these are my transplants that I'm gonna sow indoors. And these are the things that I'm going to direct sow. And so that's just simple, but it's one by one, going by the information on the back of the seed and then going by the information here. There are really cool books. This is a garden planner where I'm writing down, like in the winter when I'm not able to really do a whole lot outside, what information I need to know about these plants, how far apart. Basically, it's my summary of what is in here. And I put it in this book. And so when I'm planning, right now, we've totally, because our garden plans have changed, I've got to create a whole new garden. But the garden that I planned for out in the front yard, I was able to go, well, they need to be this far apart. That means I can fit this many in here in that amount of space. Get some grid paper or draw a grid. And it doesn't have to be 100%. That's what I'm going to do. But the same thing with pots. If you're potting them, and this may not be as helpful with if you're having more of like a potted garden, but you can do a little garden in a pot. And my little sister, we've been talking, because where they live, the soil, it goes from being really, really sandy and dry to being so saturated and so wet that everything gets moldy. And so she bought these little raised bed, they're called city pickers from Home Depot. And she follows the directions on layering the soil with more of a, I think it's perlite that they use to help just create a good atmosphere for those plants. And so she and I have been planning a garden based on her city pickers, and those things we can move. And so she's not stuck. If it's raining too much, she can bring them, you know, indoors or under the porch a little bit. But planting plants, you don't want this huge tall vining tomato plant in this little city picker. So for her, I would go with more of a determinate, smaller patio tomato plant, but she's still, they make bushels of tomatoes. So she's still going to have a harvest, but she's growing in a different environment than what I'm growing in, where we have, you know, 3,000 to 4,000 feet of growing space. And so that's the other thing I want you to look at. Everything that I'm including in this little giveaway is stuff that you can grow in pots pretty easily. The hardest things I've ever found to grow in pots, though, were these summer squash and the zucchini. I know she's trying them in the city pickers. I don't know specifically. I mean, one of these plants, because they're so big, I really think would take up like an entire city picker. So this may not be, and if you don't eat squash or zucchini, doesn't matter, but these are just fun to grow. There's just really something fun about harvesting them, but they probably need a little more space to grow in, whereas everything else, the flowers, the basil, these tomatoes, these are, just so you know, these are an indeterminate tomato, but they're still absolutely delicious. And the mammoths are the other one I would definitely want to have out in a bigger area, just because their root system is so deep and big, because this is such a big, tall plant. So this is one, I think the squash, zucchini, and this one for sure I would want to have in a little bit bigger of a growing area. But the rest of them you could even grow in pots. So if you're learning, whether it's on the porch of a condo or an apartment, out on your patio, you still can learn to garden. And so I just really want to encourage you guys in that. And don't feel like, I know sometimes we talk about, I want it to be as organic, I want it to be as self-sustaining as possible, but sometimes all you can get your hands on is this, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Do what you need to do to start learning and growing and seeing what works and what doesn't work for you. And that's where the fun is in gardening. Right now, we're not in a place where you're having to do it to survive, but having that skill and learning is, I think, just as important, not just for our generation, but for the next generation, because these are skills that I do feel like I see, at least amongst the next and the coming generations, they're dying out because they're not necessary. They don't see them as necessary. And so we're not teaching them. We're not teaching them in school. We're not teaching them just in life, and we're too busy. Everybody's too busy to learn these basic skills that at the end of the day, if we did not have any kind of food industry, or if our food industry just went bust, how many people would survive on their growing skills at this point?